Hey guys, okay, let's talk about file uploads. So very briefly, we have a little sample application here. If you go to Code Hot and it's Node Picture Upload, you'll find the application. It's just a Node application that I put together. It's got basic HTML in it and JavaScript. Nothing much more than that. Okay, so how does it work? Well, it works like this. Let's take our little app here. Upload example. We can do two kinds of uploads, and this is just because I wanted to show how you could do, like, you could upload with the URL and just put the web link in directly there. But the key here is the image upload. So you click an image upload. You can choose how much you want this picture resized to, and then you just go and choose a file. In our case, we're going to choose let's choose a file. File and maybe a logo or something. Get a file, we click on upload. Uploads gives us some kind of message, and you see there the file is. We want to upload another file. Take a small one, upload, and there it is. Okay, so what are the steps involved? Well, what it's doing, if you look on the JavaScript side first, the file is here. It's the index. It's a very basic form. It's a little form. We have to add a multi-part form data to it, enc type. That's because we're uploading basically a binary image file. I have a couple of options here. Choose between the image and the URL. I have the option for resizing. Again, these are both optional. The key one here, though, is I have file type is equal to file. So it's not a text link, it's a file link. I'm specifying I want to allow any images, and that's it. The other thing to keep in mind is that you'll notice that in my form here, and this is because I'm using some of the built-in features of JavaScript, I have to set a name field. So I have an ID field. The name field is really identical to the ID field. It was used before the ID came around. It was to name each of the inputs on the form. Then with the ID coming around, we kind of used ID all the time with JavaScript, and so this becomes a little bit redundant most of the time, but we do need the name field because we're allowing JavaScript to auto-create our form. So again, we have a form. We have to have enc type is equal to multi-part form data. We want to have the actual file input here, so we have a file, type is equal to file. And then in our JavaScript, what do we have? Well, okay, first of all, let's take a look here. We have just one button. We have upload media there. So in JavaScript, we have, actually, the second thing I should say is, what I do is, in this case, is I do body on load. Basically, I wait for the whole body to be loaded. That's one way of doing it. I could have also put a script tag somewhere down below, but because I'm loading the script from an external source, I would need to make script and then do defer source, defer to load it when this is, or I would do it this way, which is probably a little bit cleaner, where I'm saying, okay, on load, once this document is fully loaded, when all the dependencies are loaded, then we want to start running the main app. Our main app, what does it do? Well, it's going to toggle media uploads. So that was this little thing to decide whether to show the boxes for the file upload or for the URL upload. So it's just defaulting to the file upload. So it does. It's adding the class for the file upload. It's hiding. You can see it's using bootstrap classes. It's hiding the URL. It's taking away the dnone, which is a hide element, from the file and the size column. Okay, so once that's in place, then when the user selects a file and they click on upload media, well, event prevent default, so we don't want the form to actually submit on its own. And then we're using this little call that we built here called API call. We're sending and that's API await API call, and now we do something interesting here, and I modified the API call and you can see that's a function which just handles the API call. It wraps it away nicely. The endpoint is /API/media. It's a post type. I actually modified it so I can give just a link to a form. That because in this case we're just saying, okay, we want to take that media form, upload all of that to it. So where's that code? API call. Okay, so it generates the key stuff here. It has to create a settings field for fetch. It sets a method colon whatever get post in that case. When it's a form, so when we're passing in a form as opposed to actual data, we don't actually set the content type because that has to be set by the browser. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. And here we say, okay, if it's a method is post, which is for form. For the form, it actually uses the built-in JavaScript command new form data, and it grabs all of the information here from what we passed in, which is media form. So all of those named fields are populated here into form data, and then it's a normal sort of thing where we just send the settings. So the body is now equal to the form data. And again, if it's not form data, it will then be looking for all the actual data as JSON data to be passed in, which was how we were doing it before. But when we're dealing with things like images, we can't do it quite that way. So we have to do it as a new form data. It will actually encode it slightly differently. It's going to be URL encoding, and that's the way that the browser can handle sending all the data. And then we just await fetch and we send that across. And remember, what we did here is we actually did have a little bit of the kind of because every time there's a call, it's good to have some kind of message to update the user if there's a problem. We actually had it, okay, if there's a problem with the the API call, or if it worked, we'll actually have it show that result right here. So I usually do this. You don't have to, but that way I have it right there in the API call. The most important thing is, remember, when dealing with binary data, we have to have something like this where it's sending a new form data. This is pretty particular stuff. There's little nuances of details here. So I would just suggest using this code or other code you find to do it, because you'll find there's all little kind of small things that if you don't do right, it won't work. Like, for example, if you give it a content type, it won't work when you're trying to let the browser create the new form data. So anyway, the way this one's working, as we said, is where is it? Upload. So yeah, we do API call, we give the endpoint, of course we specify it's a post, it could be a post or a put, and now we just specify what the actual form data is. It will now send that to the server, comes back, it resets the upload file and URL entries, and then it calls media list. Media list, what does it do? Well, it's doing a simple get API call /API/media, and then it is taking the media list div and it's looping around and showing each of the pictures. So let's try that one more time. We're going to, so we're here, let's clear this. We're going to, we're on image file, thumbnail size, and choose a file. So that's the input type is equal to file. Let's choose this file again, and now we do upload. Okay, what's it doing? It's making a post request to the let's see if I can make it small. So it does a post request to the server. You can see it puts its own header type in its own header. So type is multi-part form data and all this weird stuff here. You can see it's sending the image file is being sent as binary, and that's important. That means it did work. It's sending that actual images as binary. It sends the other fields we had. Image type, it's an image file. Image size, we want the thumbnail, which is 256 by 256 pixels, and we had no URL because we're actually uploading the actual data itself. So that worked. It came back with the information about the media data upload. You can see it saved it as a file called upload / some long thing here. Gave a message that we actually had appear up there, and of course we had status element. Okay, and after that it then did another call to fetch the media data, and it got all the pictures, and these are all the 3 pictures there. Okay, so let's look at the server side. On the server side, we saw it actually made the call with the form data. It made a call to the post call to the API media. And this is where the magic of multer comes in. So we use this npm package called multer. We pass in the path where we want multer to upload all the pictures to. And then we have to chain the multer processing step into our endpoint. And that's the beauty of Express, is that it allows you to chain multiple things together. So this becomes kind of middleware here. So upload single looks for the image file, and we saw that the form had a name is equal to image file for this. And what this does is upload single is it actually processes that form data and it puts it now into a rec.file entry. And the rec.file now will have this picture. We did just one picture, so we used upload single. You can actually upload multiple, but for most of what we do, we'll just use the upload single. And that means the file, or the rec.file, will actually have an object of all that information of this picture that it has now extracted from the form data, and it has actually written to the upload path. Okay, so as we get into then our actual function itself, it first it checks, right? I mean, if there was no picture being uploaded, this wouldn't do anything. If there is a picture being uploaded, then there should be a rec.file that has been set. And our code checks, okay, does it exist? Yes, it exists. Then we use our little upload resizer if the user happens to choose a resize. And the reason we do this is often a user will give, you know, like a camera type picture, which will be 5 or 10 megabytes big. You don't want to save it like that. You usually want to resize it down to a more scalable size, like 800 by 800 pixels, or 1000 by 1000, or big, maybe a 5000 by 5000. And that's where something like the upload resizer, it will shrink it down, make the file a fraction of its original size, and still be perfectly usable. And of course, it means that if you make it a reasonable size, like 800 by 800, it now becomes a much faster load every time you go to the website. Imagine if each of the pictures was 10 or 20 megabytes. It would be really slow. So it resizes it. It now gives the upload resizer gives the actual URL to the updated file. In this case, it would be something like this. It's going to give us this updated URL, and we just, because this code could be used towards something bigger, we're putting it all back into the media data object where we had the resizing amount, we had the name, and then we just check if there was no image URL given. A little bit of error checking. We give some error checking there. If it did work, then we get down to here where we're going to save that media link to the ORM so that we can go listing them, right? And then we send back to the user some kind of result. Thank you. Saved it. We even give it the actual image of the link. Okay, and at that point, of course, now when we do something like we hit the get API media endpoint, it will now have this as part of the listing. So ORM get media will now have this new saved media as part of that listing. So let's see. So I think that kind of should explain it. Very briefly, ORM upload resize. What does this do? Well, this is using an npm package called sharp, and it's going through your original path that's been uploaded by multer, and it's basically resizing it, and it's outputting it to a new file. In this case, we want it to be a file with a file extension, because multer doesn't save it with a file extension for some reason. And I like to have the file saved if it's a JPEG with a JPEG extension, if it's PNG with a PNG extension, just so that it makes a little sense to the browser. And then we delete the original file. If they didn't resize it, we actually just rename it to a name which has an extension. And that's all that it does. Then we pass back the file name without the public directory, right? Because everything is being served from the public directory, so we go all the content after that. Okay, so that's what upload resizer is. It really, its implementation is just all you need. You're going to pass in. You need to know the public path. In this case, we're saying, well, public path, because the here the router is an app, so it's in a directory, a subdirectory. We want it to go back to the parent, which is where public uploads is at, right? And the parent is where public/upload. So we want it to be, two dots back a directory, and then it's just direct rest.file.path, which is path to the file. We want the original name, which gives us the extension, and any of the resize attributes. That's what upload resizer does. It will resize and it will give us a URL. We take the new URL that it's giving us, and we are going to then save that URL to our list of media. Okay, so one final time, let's look at it in action, and let's talk about the final steps, and I think that's it. So let's go back here. Okay, so again, so we have a form here. The form has a file, name is equal to image file. We're going to choose a file. Now, I should add this, and you can choose, you see you choose. Now it's kind of attached it to the form. It hasn't done anything. It hasn't uploaded it yet. I should say that this choose file, this is what it looks like on a desktop. When you go for mobile, though, let's see if it shows properly. No, okay, it's not showing it, but when you go for mobile, and I'll include a little clip in a bit, it actually is really cool because you can actually use the camera. So when you're on desktop, it's like this. If you have a tablet or a phone, it will actually allow you to not just choose an upload file. It'll allow you to take a picture from the camera. So it's a great way to use a simple, basically using a simple import type is equal to file box, and you're still having the built-in capabilities to do pictures from the camera. See, upload, it says thank you. You can see that it did the post for the upload. It sent the binary data, and then it just lists all the pictures again because we have all these pictures, and so it's working. So hopefully that makes sense. It's all here within the post code using multer. Hopefully that made a lot of sense, guys. I'd love to see you put it in action. This is a great way for mobile first pages to allow picture uploads and so on, and it's actually not so hard to do. Okay guys, have a good day.